Hey everybody, KC here. So it's a bucolic Saturday morning in southern Connecticut as I record this. And it's a beautiful day out, a little chilly for May. It's 5:30 this morning. The film crew showed up at our house to start shooting the movie that I told you about last week, Stinky Fish. They're shooting a bunch of scenes here Saturday and Sunday. So I'm going to turn around here and you can see that they're doing all sorts of work, right? The truck pulled into the driveway at about 6 a.m. and they started unloading. I'll show you some inside stuff later. And but they're, all sorts of stuff here that they're shooting, getting ready to shoot. They're turning our house and the neighborhood into, in Connecticut, southern Connecticut in May, as I told you, into northern Minnesota during the middle of winter. So here in the backyard, they've got all sorts of stuff as well. They're shooting, they've got all sorts of lights up and stuff like that. And it's really, really interesting. I have to tell you, one of the things that I find fascinating about this is, first of all, the people are so nice and they're so incredibly professional. They're just wonderful, I have to say. It is a pleasure doing this. I'm anxious to see how the movie turns out, and I'll show you some more stuff inside in a bit. So it's a sort of a rainy Sunday morning, and they were here again about a little before 7 a.m. And you can see what they're doing is they're laying down the fake snow. Because, it's supposed to be northern Minnesota in winter, and it's not. So what they're doing is they're just they're creating it. So it's really fascinating. You can see the crew getting set up there. They're trying to figure out where to lay it all down. So totally cool. So you're all used to me shooting in the kitchen, right? But they have lights rigged up. Let me show you here. Because they have to control the light. So outside there, you can see they have a spotlight. It's because they want the light to just come in the window a certain way. And then they also have a light up there. You can see in the skylight, and it's just totally cool what they're doing here. Incredibly professional, incredibly nice, and I can't wait to see how this all turns out. So as I record this, it's Sunday afternoon, and they're sort of wrapping things up. They've got one or two more setups to do. And I have to tell you, one of the things I found really instructive about the crews being here all weekend is, first of all, how solicitous they are of each other. They're really respectful of each other, asking for each other for their opinions. I mean, it's Whitney Engstrom, who's the writer and director. They would do a scene, and then she would turn to different people and say, "What'd you think about that? What did you like? What did you like? What did you not like?" I thought it was really interesting how she was seeking other people's opinions about things that really she has the right to make the final decision on. There was also an interesting moment. At one point, they were shooting something in the kitchen, and one of the actresses was making a cup of tea at the stove, and then she was turning and she was taking the cup over to, or taking the kettle over to the counter, where she was going to pour the water into a cup with a tea bag in it. And there's a book sitting pretty close to where the cup is, and and they kept doing it, and it was amazing. This guy had a Steadicam, right? It's an enormous harness that's basically on a gyroscope that allows everything to be kind of smooth. And he was then shooting her making that move, and then looking down and then getting a close-up on her pouring the water into the cup. And they weren't getting it quite right. And the director of photography, could have just, yelled at him and said, "Come on, you're not getting it, you're not getting it, you're not getting it." And finally he said, "Okay, when she turns and she pours the water into the cup, I want you to think of it this is a tea commercial. It's not a book commercial. So the book needs to be there, but it's not the focal point. The book will become more important later. So it's a tea commercial. It's not a book commercial." And the guy got it right. I thought it was such an interesting way of communicating, and he clearly figured out what the best way was to get the message to the guy who was using the camera. And I think that's what really good leaders do. They figure out how to communicate with the people in a language they understand, And they're also really good about being solicitous about other people's opinions. Even if you don't take people's opinions all the time, the fact that you're listening to them, the fact that you're asking their opinion, incredibly important. This is really an instructive kind of weekend. It's been a lot of fun to watch. Hollywood comes to Long Island Sound community. Anyway, a lot of fun. That's what's on my mind. And as always, I want to hear what's on your mind.